For Flash number 4, written by Francis Manapul and Brian Buccellato, art by Francis Manapul. We left off last issue with Barry getting shot in the head by Mob Rule. They were making an escape, Manuel, Patty, and Barry. Barry went to buy them more time, got lost in his Speed Force thinking, and got shot in the head. This issue picks up at the funeral, because of course it's definitely the Flash's funeral. We see Manuel standing there over the grave and some other lady, and then, there's Barry. It's a flashback. Never mind. Turns out this is Manuel's father's funeral, and Manuel's doing the thing where he's standing in a trench coat way far away, looking over from on top of a hill. And Barry comes up afterwards, and he's like, "Hey, Manuel, you really should have come down." And he's like, that plane was... He just exposits. The plane that his father was on was hijacked by a terrorist group named Basilisk, and they killed him. And now, because he's a covert CIA operative, he's going to go through and he's going to find all the Basilisk members, and he's going to make them pay. And that's the end of the flashback. He walks away from Barry and revenge. We cut to the Badlands outside of Central and Keystone City, where Mob Rule's talking to Dr. Elias, and they're like, "Hey, so are you going to help us, Dr. Elias?" And Dr. Elias is like, I don't know. How about you tell me your entire backstory and how things came to be, and then I can tell you. And they said, "Sure thing." So, Manuel Lago, he was a covert CIA operative. He went on all these dangerous things. He had the ability to regenerate, which made him really good, to the point where, quote, he was James Bond meets Batman. Yep. So once his father died, he got the name Basilisk. He went on a hunting spree of killing all these terrorist groups or whatever. And he was good. He killed them all off, but then one by one, eventually... he got caught. He was just one guy going up against a huge group. So they got him, and they held him down. They tortured him by cutting off some of his hands and limbs and such like that. But, of course, he regrew them, because that's what he does. And they were like, cool, so we're just going to keep cutting these off then. And they kept torturing him for weeks. But each of those limbs that they cut off became a new Manuel. It became a new version of him. So eventually they were able to overpower the guards, or whatever you want to call them, and get Manuel out. And they escaped, they blew up the compound, whole James Bond thing, and then they went on and became like a group team of basilisk hunters. They were going around the globe killing off these things. But within a few months, they all started to die, one by one, in the order that they were made. So the first hand cut off died, and then the first leg they cut off died, and da-da-da. So they realized this was the order. They needed to do some experimenting with Manuel so that they could figure out, hey, how do we prolong our life? How do we keep living? But Manuel just bolted, and so now they're after him, and that's where we are now. And Dr. Elias is like, all right, if I were to do anything, which you're not exactly giving me much of a choice, but I'm definitely going to need Manuel to make that work. And they're like, all right, we're working on it. So we cut to the bridge that Barry put that plane through a while back. And basically they're not letting anybody by because a plane went through it, and they need to check to make sure that it's not going to explode. And people are rightly upset by that. And then Patty sees Manuel, and Patty's just pissed off Manuel. It's like, Barry could have... He was left behind for you. He put his life on the line for you, and you just left him to die because you don't care about anyone but yourself. That's why Mob Rule's so douchey, because you're a douche. And that's basically that scene. Then we get 4 panels of Iris West in Iron Heights prison, just sitting in a frozen cell, and then she plans on getting out. That's it. That just happens. So then we cut back to Manuel. He's on horseback. He's riding back. He's like, I'm going to help you, Barry. I shouldn't have left you behind. Mob Rule stops and is like, whoa, hey, yeah, we were hoping to run into you. You're going to come with us. He's like, no, I'm not. Get out of my way, or I'm going to take you out. I got to go save Barry. He's like, Barry? No, Barry's dead. We shot Barry. We shot Barry in the head. He's like, what? You shot? I'll kill you! And they get in a fight, and then immediately Manuel's taken out. And Mob Rule's holding him down, and we get a little flashback scene of Manuel going to see Barry after his accident, and he's like, Manuel, you're still alive. And he's like, I could say the same for you. Hey, how's everything going? And they blah, blah. They get all back together. And then we see that Mob Rule is sitting outside just like, Barry, yes, we can use this against him. And it's like, but Barry means something to us. And it's like, not to us, to him. He's not us. We are different. So anyway, Manuel's all teary-eyed, and he's like, why do you take away everything I love? It's like, 'cause we're you, and you're a dick. So come on, you're coming with us. Then we cut back over to Barry, because of course he's not actually dead. Turns out he was so lost in his Speed Force thinking of probabilities and whatever that he couldn't tell the difference between what he had actually already done and what he still needed to do, which was, all of it. But as soon as the bullet grazed his temple, his reflexes kicked in, and it didn't matter what he was lost in thought. He speed dodged out of the way, and it just left a little bit of blood because it still grazed his temple. So at that point, he's like, all right, so I'm not going to do that as much as I can help it. I'm just going to, rely on my instincts because that's good enough for me. So I'm the Flash, and I'm going to run real fast. I'm going to protect my friends because that's what I do. And he zooms out of the building because there were some time bombs. That's kind of important to note. There were some time bombs, and he zooms out, and then that's where we end with him saying, this is what I do. It's a fine issue. This is the issue that finally tells us all of Manuel's backstory, which is pretty much, you can just piece it together. I felt like I knew all that before this issue. None of that was really super surprising. I think the only thing that was revealed, really, was why he started, aka his father's death. But besides that, everything else kind of felt obvious. But I don't know. It's a fine issue. It just kind of feels like, all right, well, that was a really, really, really big cliffhanger we did last issue of Barry's dead. And of course, it's not true, and we're not going to try to hold that over for multiple issues, but we are going to try to hold it over for at least one issue. So we're not going to let you know until the end of the issue that, of course he's fine. Overall, though, I give this a 7. I cannot say a bad thing about the art at all. Art is fantastic. Layouts are very creative, very well done. My biggest problem is the fact that it just feels like what's really moved forward here. The only thing that's changed is that Flash isn't going to use his super thinking powers. And okay, that's fine, but I don't know. 7.